I think something like this would be really impressive on a portfolio. I don't think the cost of usage would be a big deal. I think that'd be a pretty impressive portfolio project. That's not something that's really possible out of the box in Storyline. And then showing off these like advanced development and technical skills always does well on portfolios. Back when it was XAPI, and that was the big thing I was sharing with people, and some people would be up for the challenge and try to incorporate it into their portfolio. Yeah, that did really well when it came to hiring. All right, hey everyone, I'm getting caught up on the chat now. Thanks for joining. Happy Halloween for those of y'all who are celebrating Halloween. I would like to learn more about where y'all are at with things like Storyline and AI and JavaScript. I told y'all this is going to be an advanced workshop, so no worries if you're not at the advanced level. You're going to pick up some stuff. If nothing else, hopefully this will kind of show you what's possible in the tool. Okay, so do y'all want to see what I came up with that I think we're going to be building? So this is the prototype that I built, right? We're in this haunted house. We just woke up. We feel like we're being watched. Any suggestions on what we'd like to say into the void of this creepy house? Yeah. Who goes there? Okay, let's do that. I'm Alex. Who are you? You can't leave until we talk. Uh-oh, we want to get out of here. So what should we say to Mr. Alex the Ghost? Should I identify myself? I come in peace. My name is Devlin. People usually just ignore me. Some people want to know if it's friendly. That depends. Are you friendly? Also, can you offer me any candy? It is Halloween after all, right, my friends? Let's see. Uh-oh. Did y'all hear the thunder? The ghost isn't very happy with us. We don't care about how Mr. Ghost feels, so maybe we should try to empathize with the ghost, right? So that's pretty cool. So again, I'll show y'all behind the scenes, but this is like the ghost is AI powered, so we can have this natural conversation with it. And the ghost also has powers because it can make the thunder crack, it can kind of make the lights go down, and it also has the power to unlock the door and let us walk outside into our freedom. I'm not here to give you candy. You're right. I'm sorry. I want to be friends. How are you feeling? Let's see. And then you see the ghost expression changes too. These decisions are all being made by AI. So when we send this request to the AI, it sends back a response with the text, with any actions it wants to take, like making the thunder play or unlocking the door for us, and with the ghost's current mood so that we can update the ghost's face. Really, you actually want to know how I'm feeling? I'm feeling kind of lonely and confused, like I don't really belong anywhere. That sounds really hard. Hard. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. No, I feel lonely sometimes too. You do? It's nice to know I'm not the only one. Do you think we can help each other feel less lonely? Yes. Nobody should have to feel alone. Let's be pals. And let's watch this door. There we go. The door opened. The ghost thinks I'm nice, and I'm the first person who got how it felt. We did it together, y'all. And so then the door creaks open. So that's what I built. Let's see. What do y'all want to take a look at? We could look at the storyline file really quickly. Not a whole lot going on here. I just made a little layer for this text box to appear. Let's get rid of that trigger. And then this is just the variable that holds the ghost's response. Okay, so yeah, my vision for this is kind of like it's like an empathy training, right? Like it's like a call center type experience where you need to empathize or de-escalate an upset or angry customer. I think that's a really common scenario. So I try to put it in this fun Halloween format. Now, I can show y'all how I built this. You know, maybe like I could show you at a high level how I built it so you can get an idea of the different tech involved. I will show you something. So pretty much all of the JavaScript for this project is living right here. So on a slide master, this is all the JavaScript. How much of this JavaScript do y'all think I wrote by hand, by typing it out? Practically zero. I'd say maybe a couple of lines because I do have like some front end development background, so I do understand this to some degree, but I didn't write this. Like, I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I knew that it was possible. Let me move this back over here. Yeah, I knew that it was possible, but you know, I was feeling kind of intimidated. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to code this myself. And at first I was like diving into the documentation. I was doing things how I used to do. And then I was like, well, let me just ask like Claude how I would do this, which is another ChatGPT. It's similar to ChatGPT. I've heard good things about it. So I was like, let me just ask it how it would accomplish this. And then it like gave me an overview and then spit out all of this code. So I'm like, instead of me trying to write this from scratch, why don't I just try to use this code and see how it goes? And yeah, like that's not going to work out of the gate. But the cool thing about it is you can work with the AI as if it's your own personal developer. And if things go wrong, you can kind of tell it what went wrong and it will tell you how to fix your code. So it's come a long way even from a year ago when it could barely hold enough code in its memory to be useful in this way. But yeah, I'd say I wrote like 2 or 3% of the code because in some cases it would tell me how to fix it. And I'd be like, oh, I want to do it slightly different than how I prompted it. So I'm just going to like use this approach, but I'll just type it myself. But it is definitely possible to do all of this without writing a single line of code yourself, which I think is one of the biggest opportunities for AI, with AI for instructional designers right now, because you don't need to send a lot of like your company data to generate code that will be useful in a storyline course. I can show y'all some of the asset stuff because that's, of course, all AI generated as well. So I'll get out of the code here. Let me see. I have some stuff open for you here. So this tool right here, FreePick Picasso. Sabrina did a YouTube video about this before, but I tried a lot of different things and look at all these cute different styles, all these different potential ghosts we could use, some potential haunted house backgrounds. My wife wanted to see this anime style, so we did like a cute, cozy cat cafe one. I think this is the one I wound up using and then edited them to have the different expressions. But notice I had to do like an icon pack of 4 versions of the same ghost showing different emotions. So that helps because when I was trying to just like, you know, generate a sad ghost and then an angry ghost, they can look like quite different, obviously. So this tool is really cool. Let me get out of here and go to create. And you can kind of type in exactly what you want to do. Like, I don't know what we want to see, but then look at all the different style options we have here. So Storyline AI, I played around with their image generation, but it's quite limited. It has maybe like 5 to 8 of these options. Look at all of these. And yeah, this is like the anime one. So cute. I tried, oh yeah, this one I bet is cute. So yeah, and then simple vectors too. Like I'm telling y'all, it's a different world from when I got started in this field. Like we have a lot more power as an individual instructional designer to make some really cool stuff these days. So this is OpenAI's playground. So I know some of y'all already know this, but there is ChatGPT, right? You go to chat.openai.com or whatever the URL is, and you can spin up a new conversation, get a lot of helpful stuff. There's also OpenAI's API. So that's what like developers use for some enhanced access, I would say, to all of the different AI tools that OpenAI offers. So ChatGPT, you can pick your model. Some of you might know, like, oh, let me use model GPT-4o. And then they have like some new ones like O1 and O1 Mini. Well, when you use the API, you have access to way more models than that. You have access to their like image generation tools. Yeah, you just have a bit more fine-tuned control. So this is a good tool to use. Obviously, there's some more options here too. You can change the maximum length of the response. You could look at all these different models you have access to. So the way this works is instead of paying monthly to like chat with ChatGPT, you pay for the credits that you use. So that's how this storyline thing is functioning. It's sending requests to the OpenAI API. I might be losing some of y'all here, but I promise by the end of this session, you'll know what I'm talking about. So we're sending a request to OpenAI, it's doing some stuff, and then it's sending us back a response. And there are all of these different options we can put with that request to kind of get exactly what we want. So we have more control than if we were to just open up a ChatGPT window and start chatting with it. We have a lot more options, a lot more we can do with JavaScript essentially. And what else were y'all? Oh yeah, y'all were asking about Claude. So here's the prompt I used to start off this whole thing. I'm developing an AI haunted house. The user will be able to chat with a ghost, which is actually an AI agent. I want to use the OpenAI API to create an agent and then have a chat session with that agent. I guess I don't need to read all of this, but I'm just talking to it like I would a worker. I think we've come a long way from when I did those initial like prompt engineering videos. Like the models are a lot smarter now. You don't need to kind of give it all of this background and, write some huge prompt to get what you need, especially when it comes to coding stuff. So yeah, I was kind of telling him my ideas and it's like, I'll help you create a solution. And then it just gave me all of this JavaScript. So this is what I'm talking about, where I was planning on writing it myself. I just wanted to get another perspective, but if it's going to have all of this code for me, I might as well try to use it. And so it will tell you exactly what to do. Add a trigger that executes JavaScript. So if y'all feel like code is too overwhelming, I don't get it. I'm confident, even if you know nothing about code and you go in here and start asking questions, you're going to get some insights on how to do what you need to do. Just ask them to create a plan for it. And if you don't know how to do one of those things or you don't understand it, just ask the model and it will tell you. Well, the last option of where we want to take this is the actual prompt that controls the ghost, right? That's probably something that would be good to take a look at. So here's the code in a code editor, so it's a bit easier to view. And again, when I'm looking at this, I don't know like exactly, well, I guess I get the idea of what the function is doing, but you don't need to understand all of this. This is the API request that we're sending to OpenAI. Okay, this is, I guess, some of the last background knowledge we should take a look at before deciding where to focus. So this stuff, just typical HTTP request stuff. But here's the content we're sending it. So we're saying we want to use this model, which is their like latest efficient flagship model, I'd say. But here's the content of our prompt. Okay. I could explain that if y'all want, not that important. So we're saying you need to respond in this format. Say which action you want to take, which is either none, thunder, turn the lights off, or unlock the place. Send us your message, and then send us your mood. And we're using this to change the mood of the ghost in storyline. So the action must be one of these three options, and then you tell it when you want it to use that action. So none for normal responses, thunder when upset, lights when very upset, and then unlock for resolution. So we're kind of saying you can take these options, you have to choose one of these. Oh, this should be 4. I added the unlock option at some point. And then sometimes we're saying use thunder booms when you take an action. Well, sometimes no actions were happening. And then the ghost was saying like, oh yeah, the temperature in the air gets colder. But I'm like, we don't need to have that with every message. So then we included this. Express mood and atmosphere through dialogue instead. The mood must be one of these three options. So you see how we're giving it all these parameters, using this like consistent formatting. We're giving it some example correct responses. So we're being very clear, this is what we need from the model because it needs to be in this format for us to work with it in an easier way in Storyline. We're telling it what we don't want it to do. Okay. And now here we get into the good stuff. Your role. You are a 10-year-old ghost named Alex trapped in a haunted house. You're upset because you were created by AI and you're having an existential crisis. You're also upset that nobody understands you. But your goal is to help train customer service agents in empathy and de-escalation. So notice how we're keeping all of this context. We're not just saying like, oh, you're an unhappy ghost, but we don't want to lose the context that like, you're also helping train customer service people, because this helps the AI understand the intent better, so it can make better judgments about how to make better judgments about if it's being empathized with or if it's being disrespected, things like that. Core character traits, right? This can help with the personality. You get upset, and we're telling it, you get upset when people do this. Dismiss your feelings, act fake or insincere, try to leave without helping, talk down to you. So again, just trying to make it really clear what's going on here. And then we have these rules. Demand that the user announce who they are. Tell them they can't leave. Share your problems in a kid's way, so it's nice and approachable. And then here's how we react to the user's responses. If they're empathizing, we become calmer and happier. If they're dismissive, we become angrier. And then, so it keeps going, right? The escalation levels, right? We're going to escalate things when we're feeling ignored or rushed. We're going to really escalate things if we're feeling completely dismissed or deeply disrespected. And then finally, the resolution requirements. So I haven't been looking at the chat. This is all the prompt that we're sending when that first request goes over to OpenAI. It instantly knows, okay, this is what we're here for. This is what my responses need to look like. So this is the prompt. Big prompt, but the effect is quite consistent. Let me find the chat again. Is there a cost associated with users engaging with the Ghost conversations? Yes, there is, but it is quite minimal. Like 4.0 is so cheap now. I'm going to look up 4.0 model prices. It'll bring you to an OpenAI pricing page. It's $2.50 per 1 million input tokens. Now, an input token is like 3/4 of a word, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's $2.50 for 750,000 words exchanged between the human and the ghost. So pretty minimal, right? Like how many words did we use? Like a couple hundred. But yeah, if you're rolling this out to tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, the cost is going to rack up. It's not completely free. The other disclaimer I will share about this is for testing purposes and for these purposes, I'm just using my API key in the code that I'm showing you, which in general isn't best practice because if someone inspects the code, they could see your OpenAI API key. And then I could say, oh, there's an API key. Let me go and use that to build my app that does have 1 million people. And then if they all use it, I'll rack you up like a huge credit card bill. So generally what you would do if you're going to use this in like a big production environment where security is important, you would at least have like a server acting as a middleman. So from Storyline, you would kind of send this request to another computer that acts as the middleman, and that's where a lot of this code would live, and then it will forward that along to OpenAI's API. So again, if I'm losing people to APIs, like that's a good concept to get comfortable with because that's how you make these different programs work together. API stands for, I think, Application Programming Interface. And it's basically, it's like what I'm showing you with OpenAI. They're like, we have this really powerful AI models. And then we have this Storyline course over here. So we need to use the API to communicate from the Storyline course or from our computer, for example, to OpenAI's computers where their huge models exist. And then, yeah, you're asking about putting a SCORM file into the LMS. Is the key hidden? Unless the person is looking for it, it's basically hidden. Like if I were to go in there and inspect it, I could probably find the API key, but I've found that a lot of times employers, if they're kind of like not expecting their employees to be sabotaging their software systems. So clients I've worked with, they're like, yo, we don't really care if it's exposed in the code on the LMS. If they're on the LMS, we trust them not to do this. And if they did do that, they would probably be open themselves up to some big lawsuits if they're like using company private keys to do like personal profit. So yeah, but at least from like outside attackers, it would be safe living on an LMS. Yes. Okay. So we want to build this thing. We want to get into Storyline and kind of see where we want to take things. All right, let's do it, y'all. We're going to go to a fresh Storyline file. We'll open up a new project. Some of y'all would love to see it with AI audio. Maybe that can be some of y'all's homeworks. Just kidding. That one was looking even more intimidating to me. Okay, so when I get in here, I want to do some adjustments. I just clicked the preview button up here. Let's take a quick look at this. I want to get rid of this player and I want to make this widescreen. I don't want it to be like so square like it is now. So to get rid of the player from the home tab, I'm going to click on the player icon up here and I'm just going to turn the menus and controls off. And I'm going to, we'll go to colors and effects and just change it from dark to light. So it has like white sidebars instead of dark ones. So we'll get the player turned off there. And then I also want to change this to a widescreen layout. If you've already changed the default slide size on your end, you don't need to do this. But if you want to, you can go to the design tab, go to slide size, and we're going to change it to 16:9. Maybe I'll just leave it like this. It's okay. Cool. Now if we preview, it should be like a nice blank slate. Great, perfect, a nice blank white screen. The world is our oyster. I'm gonna implement some good naming practices. So we wanna name this scene. We'll call it haunted scene. And then this slide will be our AI haunted house. So I'm gonna double click onto the slide, click on the title over here, or double click, and I'll call it AI haunted house. All right, nice and easy so far, right? So where do we want to start? Do we want to try to get the technical side programming, or do we want to do the visual design? Any votes? Okay, I think visuals won in the chat popular vote, but let's put it to an actual poll and see what wins. Let's do the visuals. Okay, so let's do a background. So I want to show y'all something. Another option we could do with the background is we could make it a 360-degree image. There's not a huge point to this. I just think 360-degree images are kind of cool. Let me show you some. Oh, where is this? Oh, here we go. So if we do a 360-degree image, then we can just like spin around it, right? Like it was going to make more, like we could do, yeah, it could have been kind of an escape room like this where like when we say the right thing, like something on the wall moves or this opens up or the lights flicker. That uses a different tool called skybox.ai. Oh, some of y'all are liking the 360. And perfect. And some of y'all seem interested in that. So y'all already saw Free Pick Picasso. Great tool. I don't think it's too expensive. Yeah, y'all already saw, you know, we can kind of generate the haunted houses with this, right? I was just trying different styles and different options and stuff, but I really like this tool also. So this one is called Skybox. So yeah, we can kind of create a prompt here. And I was even using AI for this. Like, let's see what I used. Let's see. Oh, AI haunted house. One of these I asked him, like, can you generate like a can you generate a prompt for me to use to generate like a scary haunted house? And then I put it in here, and then I like enhanced it with this one's AI. So it's just like wild seeing how embedded AI is now into like every part of a workflow like this. It's like I'm using AI to generate a prompt and then using maybe a different AI model to modify the prompt. So that seems to be how the workflow is going with this AI stuff. How did I get the image? Here's how I got the image. Okay, well, let's type something in. So let's say scary haunted house, interior dining hall, dimly lit. Or I don't know if it needs to be an interior dining hall. Let's just say like interior. I'll enhance the prompt with AI. Let's see what it turns it into. This seems to be the popular AI is in work icon these days. Wait, is it already enhanced? Okay, I don't see how it's enhanced, but I guess we'll wait. And so now we have all of these different options. Are you seeing this? So similar to how I showed you in Picasso, how it had all the different art styles, these different models are trained on different art styles. So we need one that's gonna work for the haunted house. Oh, here's some more ones. So I like this one the most, magic realism. You see they try to have like some lifelike ones, but let's do the magic realism option and check it out. Again, I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. Now update it. So this is what it updated our prompt to. I'm not sure I would have used a prompt like this, but let's see. So it's taken a little bit of time. And I think that it's good to share this disclaimer. Like sometimes the AI makes mistakes. The thing about that is the AI can also fix the mistakes. So you still need a human involved, right? Like there's sometimes where Claude was like, oh yeah, to get storyline to execute your JavaScript files, you have to like add it as a resource following these steps. And those steps don't exist in storyline. Okay, so here's one option. This is definitely kind of creepy, more realistic looking than I would like. Let's do like illustrated interior of Halloween haunted house. Maybe scary is like making it too like actually scary. Like this house is like actually creepy and it looks too realistic for me. So we'll generate again. I should have answered that. I'm recommending this to y'all right now. But yeah, so this one takes a little bit of time, right? Like, you know, it's generating a lot. But it's pretty cool because then you can download it and just plop it right into Storyline. And I can give y'all whatever we generate here for those of y'all who are following along. Let's give it a minute. I want to make sure it's something we're all happy with. What in the world? Well, it definitely got the Halloween vibe down, right? Do y'all want me to, is this interesting for y'all? Do y'all want me to keep trying to get this prompt right with y'all, or do you want me to kind of use the one I already have now that you see the general idea for how to make it? Let's keep it pushing. Okay, y'all. So now we need some variables. So y'all comfortable with variables? Variables can hold any, you know, different types of data within Storyline. Some of them will get automatically generated, like these were generated by adding that 360 image in. But we want to add a variable to hold the ghost's message to us, right? So we'll call it ghost response. And we'll make it a text variable. So we'll set that up for later for when we get the response back from the ghost. And then let's create the actual like text box where we're going to send our messages to the ghost. So instead of inserting a text box, we need to insert. Oh, I forgot we wanted to do the visuals, but yeah, I think the programming part is harder than this. We'll intertwine it all. Okay, so from the insert tab, we will insert a text entry box right here, text entry field. This lets the user insert text of their own, right? It looks really ugly by default, but if we preview this, right, we can click it, we can start typing stuff. So I don't think it looks too great like this. I'm gonna make the shape fill white by going to the format tab and just clicking that white option so we don't have that like beige gradient. I'll just remove the outline for now until we decide what we want to do. Maybe I'll go back to the home tab and center the text. I don't know if there are any good creepy fonts we could use. Any recommendations? We'll use U Gothic. Make the font a little bigger. Try making it bold. Okay, we have a text box. Or a text entry box. Now let's make a text box where the ghost response will go. So I'm just going to go to insert and then we can click on text box, or you can just mouse over where you want the text box and click Control T. Okay, I'm gonna just put some filler text, do our text adjustments really quickly, because we're gonna want this to be a variable reference, right? We want this to be whatever the ghost's response is over here, and we'll give it a default value. So maybe by default, at least what I did in the other one, it's like, you just woke up in this house. You feel like you're being watched. Maybe you should say something. So we'll just have a default value there. That's what like the first message will be to us when we arrive here. I'll click OK. And now I'm going to double click in this text box, and we want to show whatever the value is of this ghost response variable. So to do that, I'm just going to type a little %sign, and then with the same capitalization as I titled that variable, I'm going to type in ghost response, and then I'm going to put another %sign. If we click out, now you see that it kind of dynamically updates and it holds the value of that variable, right? So if you're new to variables, that you just learned something new, and if you're not, you're probably like, okay, let's get into the juicy stuff. Okay, so this is pretty much like these are the bare bones of what's needed here. So now we need to add the JavaScript and execute some JavaScript, right? Or I guess we could add a button. So insert shape, we'll add a rectangle, and then we'll make this like our submit button. I'm going to select both of those things and just kind of center the button there just to keep it nice. And then we'll title that submit. I'm going to change the font to be in line with the rest of this. Okay, now I think all of our basics are there. So now it's getting into the code. So how deep do y'all want to get with the code? Like, do you want to kind of try to generate it from scratch with AI, or do we want to reuse kind of what I've already generated? Because this is where it's going to get in the weeds. Or generate from scratch. Okay, let's do it. Let's use Claude. I had good success with that. So we'll start a new chat. Yeah, okay. So what are we trying to do? So I am creating an AI haunted house e-learning experience in Articulate Storyline 360. I want there to be an AI powered ghost. I want there to be an AI powered ghost that the user communicates with. The ghost, I want there to be an AI powered ghost that the user communicates with. The ghost will be assessing the user's customer service skills by pretending to be an angry by pretending to be angry because it's AI generated. So I'm trying to get some of this details here because if it has all of this context up front, I feel like it's going to be able to generate that prompt for us more easily. Jacqueline, start prompt saying you're a professional instructional designer. Yeah. You're an instructional designer with JavaScript skills integrating an AI-powered ghost into Storyline 360. I like that, Natalie. That sounds pretty good. We can go with that. Okay, so it gave us some code. It says create these storyline variables: user message, ghost response, and customer. Where is it getting this customer service score from? That's interesting. Okay, so let's see. Let's check our variables. So we need a user response message, or a user message text variable. So by default, when you create a text entry box like this, you see it's going to set that text entry variable equal to the typed value. So we want to change the name of that variable by going into our variables manager here. And instead of text entry, we want it to be user message. The capitalization is important. We already created ghost response, so that one's checked. I don't know if I want to use this customer service score approach yet, but let's just see where it's taken us. So here's another thing. Add this JavaScript code to your project. In Storyline, go to player JavaScript. This isn't a thing, y'all. I don't know why Claude thinks that it is. This isn't how you add JavaScript to Storyline. And then we need to paste our OpenAI API key. So I was showing you this earlier. If y'all want to follow along with this, you'll just get an API key on OpenAI.com. So you could be like, get OpenAI API key. Where do I find my OpenAI API key? And it will API key page. So you'll probably just need to make an account. So this is the one I created. But once you have an account here and probably add a credit card, you can just create a new key. And that's what you're going to use to like authenticate yourself with these servers. So that's what that's talking about. But again, if you didn't know what it was talking about, you could always just ask. Now set up the triggers. Add a button. Okay, we've done that. Create a trigger on submit/click that executes this message. That would work. So what? Yeah, that would work. Okay. This is different than how I did it, but multiple ways to do the same thing with code. We already created a text field that displays the ghost response variable, so that's good. Do we want to try to use this approach? I could copy this. Whoops. Let me grab this. And so now we can make that trigger so that whenever someone clicks on this, so I'm going to click on that, create a new trigger with this little new trigger button right here, and we will make the action execute JavaScript. And then we have to click on the little JavaScript button to paste in what we need it to paste. So there we go. We're saying we're going to call this function. So this is where it's kind of helpful to know what the different things are in JavaScript. So this, something that looks like this, like generally a function, right? If it's like something with things in between parentheses like that. So this is a function and it's passing in the value of our user message variable. So when you're working with JavaScript in Storyline, usually it looks something like this. You're going to do like let player equals get player. And sorry if I'm losing some of y'all, but if you're going to start looking into like Storyline JavaScript tutorials and stuff, like this is the main way that you interact with Storyline using JavaScript. So this part is kind of important. The semicolon isn't really important in JavaScript. Like you'll probably usually see it with semicolons after each line. It's optional in like 99% of cases in modern JavaScript. So not important, but a style choice, I'd say. So usually when you're working with JavaScript in Storyline, you're going to see something like this. You're going to see like let player equal get player, or like var player equal get player. These are just, or const. These are all ways of creating JavaScript variables. Okay, so let is the most modern version of naming a variable that will change. But in this case, it's not going to change. So we use const. Not that important, but again, for people who are here wanting to understand code better, these are all ways of saying the same thing, which is let's create this player variable so that then every time I use the word player, it's going to get the Storyline player. And what that means is it's just like setting up a connection between the code and your Storyline variables. Because once you've used that get player function, you can use these functions, set var and get var. And as you can imagine, that means set a variable or get a variable. Okay, so so if we were to basically publish, is this helpful to y'all? Are y'all familiar with, again, I know we have some beginners and some advanced people here, but I think this is important to understand for everyone who is new to using JavaScript with Storyline. I can show you in action if y'all would like. This isn't anything like groundbreaking or revolutionary, but I think this will be helpful. So so basically what this is saying is, instead of creating a variable called getPlayer, it's just saying, hey, we're going to get the player, and then a period in JavaScript means like, I don't know what it means exactly, but it's kind of like do this next is how I think of it. I don't know if that's like the most accurate, but it's like get the player, and then once we have access to the player, we will then get access to this get var function, which will then return the value of the user message. So we're going to call this function, which we haven't seen the code for yet, and we're going to pass it the value of this user message that we typed in. So that's what's going on here. I'm going to delete this like sample code, and I want to show you something. So we're going to execute that code when the user clicks rectangle 1. That's fine. I'm going to publish this. I'm just going to publish it to web. This is a common troubleshooting approach. Okay, I'm going to publish it to the web. We'll just do untitled 1. Sure. We'll view the project. So now we opened it up in our browser. Oh no, we need to fix this text box. We'll do that next. And then also, this is really frustrating about Storyline. Look in Storyline. Does it look like the text is starting that low down the page? Like, come on, y'all. But no, I just had some really annoying bugs that made no sense in my other one. It's like if there was audio playing on the base layer and then this was on a new layer, the text entry wouldn't work. So yeah, just weird workarounds you have to do in Storyline sometimes. Not the best. I'm going to format this text though. I'm going to right click this. I'm going to go to format shape. You have to right click right on the border kind of, so you don't get into the text entry area. We're going to go to format shape. We're going to go to text box at the bottom. And instead of making the text be aligned to the middle of the text box, I'm going to realign it to the top. I also tried setting top margins, but I realized like that wouldn't actually update in the published version for some reason. And then we need to fix this. So I'm going to drag this in. And by holding down, I'm using a Mac keyboard and it's Windows. So I think holding down Alt, it would be on PC. I'm going to drag that in a little bit. I'm going to center it. Okay. So let's see. It doesn't affect the variable tutorial I wanted to give y'all. So I'm going to inspect this. So here's how you get to the console. I think you can use like F9, but I'm going to right click some blank area on the page. I'm going to click on inspect. I want all y'all to be comfortable doing this. If you're going to try to use JavaScript in Storyline, we're going to inspect this web page and we're going to go to the console. Okay. This is the holy grail for JavaScript debugging. Right? If errors come up, they're going to come up in this console, and that's what you'll copy and paste back to the AI model and say, hey, this is an error I got. What's wrong? So yeah, to get to the console, right? Super important. There's a shortcut. I don't know what it is, but you can also just right click in a blank area on the page. If I right click on storyline, it's not going to work, but I have to right click kind of over here. There's probably a way to get there from settings too. I'm sure there's multiple ways to get there, but I just do it this way because that's how I've always done it. I do inspect and then I go to console. So F12. Okay, so here is where you can execute JavaScript. Like we can even test JavaScript here, but check out the get var set var thing. Okay, I'm going to type in hello over here, right? So that's a new variable, and then I'm going to click off of it. So now based off of our storyline programming, that should have set that variable user message equal to whatever we just typed, right? So now if we go over here and we do that code get player dot get var, and then the name of it is user message, and then end it, and then it gets that value hello. So that's basically what we're doing in that code. We're just saying, hey, grab this storyline variable. And yeah, we can execute all of that code in the console here to test things. Yeah, publish to web. Yeah, don't zip it. Don't publish it to an LMS. And then preview isn't going to work either. We can't run the JavaScript like we need to in preview. Cool. Okay. So everyone kind of understand how that's working. And then again, people can do like let player equal get player, or I guess again, you would use like const for a constant since we're never going to change that. And then, okay, we have that variable. And then the common way to do it in JavaScript is like player.getVar. And then in quotes, you put the exact name and punctuation of the variable. And then it will get those values. And then if this changes, that changes. So we could also set them, right? So then we could do player.setVar. And then you put the name of the variable, and then you can set it to whatever you want within quotation marks. So it'd be like, my name is Devlin. So as soon as I press enter here, the text over here should change. So you see, so since so when you make a text entry box, it's like tied to a variable. So if you change that variable with JavaScript, then it's going to change over here. Everyone good with that, right? These are some beginner, this is like the most basic JavaScript in storyline stuff, but this is how all of it works. So for example, when I played that like thunder sound effect in the other one, if we take a look at that, let's see what's changing. See, play audio thunder sound effect when play thunder changes. So I have this variable over here called play thunder. It's a number variable. And so then the AI, every time it decides to play thunder, it just adds 1 to this play thunder variable, right? So then, all we're listening to in storyline is that variable actually changing. Same thing with the lights on, right? If this lights on variable changes to false, then I show this like bordered up version of the place. All right, and this was really cool, like being able to change stuff like this. That was also in Picasso. I would like y'all to know about that, but you kind of like just highlight the door, for example. This was the first version of it, and then you can just type in like close the door, and it'll give you 4 variations of what that looks like with the door closed. If you want to keep diving deeper into looking at whatever code it gave. Well, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that, right? Let's see what code it gave us. Let's see if the code worked. Okay, so we just added this JavaScript, and I try to show y'all what that's doing. It's just going to execute this function with the value of whatever the user typed there. So it's how we're going to get our messages to the AI. Here's what it said says the code does. Maintains conversation history, good. Evaluates customer service skills based on keywords. That's not exactly what we want to do. Calculates the running score. Okay. So the big issue I'm seeing here is it wants to evaluate it based on keywords. So if I'm going to look over here at the code, yeah, this is a pretty weak model, like system prompt. Oh, let's see it. Oh, here's the prompt. This is really basic, right? So I want the AI ghost to be able to use its own judgment about about how well the user is doing. For example, like if the user is empathizing with the ghost should for example, if the user successfully empathizes with the ghost should set it free. If it upsets the ghost, then the ghost should play thunder sound effects and or turn off the lights. So it's gonna, okay, so it seems like it's coming together slightly better. It still wants to have this score indicator. This is going to look so super confusing. These are confusing. These are called regular expressions, but this is trying to match words from our responses. That's like a more rudimentary way of doing this, right? Storyline visual. Yeah. Okay, sorry, y'all. Yeah, I'm like, this is what I was afraid of. I'm like, I want to get into the code with y'all, but again, I did this over like hours, over multiple days, and I'm like trying to redo it from scratch live in 2 hours. Maybe this was too ambitious to kind of re-prompt all of this. I wanted to kind of give you an idea of my process, but I don't know if this is the best use of our time here. What do y'all think? Do you want to dive back? Should I just kind of use what the code we already have? Maybe if y'all have questions, I can help answer them. Share my final code. Yeah, I think that might be good. Okay, so here's my code. Do y'all want my code now? And you can plug it in on your end, but you would need to use your own API key. That's the only thing. Let's do that. I'll give you all the code, so y'all have it. I'm going to remove my API key, and I suggest while I'm working on this to share with y'all, if you want to have this for yourself, go and generate an API key. So Google like OpenAI API key and try to grab it. You should have the option to download that. It's going to be a JavaScript file. If you don't have a code editor, I would recommend getting Visual Studio Code. It's a free download. It's on Windows or Mac. It's what you're seeing on my screen. It's for that nice like color coding. There's like AI assistants you can incorporate in it to help you like catch errors in your code even more easily. But otherwise you'll have to open it with like a Notepad or something. So you'll need to do a right click and open with. If you just double click it, it's probably going to try to like execute the code in your browser, and that's not what you want to do here. Okay. This is another really cool part about working with code in JavaScript. So how things used to be is when you want to add these scripts to a JavaScript file, or at least what I used to do is I would publish it and then I would have to drag in or copy and paste my JavaScript file into the published output. That's probably still like a good way to go about it in a production environment, just to keep things like nice and organized. But what you can also do is you can go to the slide master, and on this bottom slide master here, which is going to be used basically as the slide master for our whole project, since this is the only slide master we have. If you're new to slide masters, right? Like if I add like, a shape on here, this is served as like a template for all of the other slides. Oh, well, it's being hidden by this background image, but see, so it's like the base version of your slide that everything else will be built on top of. So that's how slide masters work. But what we can do is we can actually execute JavaScript on the slide master instead of having to do it in a separate file and then like paste that file in afterwards. So this is so helpful when debugging, because you don't have to, again, paste that file in over and over. So what you can do once you have this is you can copy it, just select everything. So you just go in here, I Control A, I copy it, I hop back over, I'm going to create a new trigger. And I'm going to execute this JavaScript whenever the timeline starts on this slide. So, and then the other thing is like, if you're familiar with JavaScript, you might be wondering like, well, do we want this JavaScript executing every single time a slide starts? And we don't. So that's why we have this at the very top of the code. We're checking if it's already been initialized, and if it has been. If it hasn't been, it will do this initialization basically. So that's how we don't like run these functions every time this timeline starts. We don't need to do that. We're just adding this stuff to the window. So we're basically saying, hey, the window, which in this case is this web window, right? We're giving the window access to these different things. So we're saying, hey, the window will have access to the conversation history and to the API key and to all of these functions. So we only need to give that access to the window once. We don't need to do it over and over. So then, again, for those of you who are following along with the JavaScript stuff, giving access to all of those things to the window makes it so that when we click this button and we execute this JavaScript and we say handle user message, the window already has this function defined because we did it in that code that we just put on the slide master. So I'll go back to the slide master. We'll take a look at it and we can see that function will be defined somewhere. Let's see, window send user message. So this is what we're using when we pass it. Oh, so that's kind of redundant if it's already doing this. Oh yeah, this is the way I was doing it. So we don't need to call the function like that. We're going to call the function, I think it's even more basic. Yeah, we're just going to do literally send user message because the function then grabs those variables itself. We don't need to send it in as a parameter like we did here, for those of you who follow that. If you don't follow that, no worries. But again, I'm confident if you wanted to accomplish something like this and you spent, you know, enough time, like a few hours with ChatGPT or Claude, you would get there. So yeah, so pasting the code. So I'll go back to the slide master. So window.api key, that's where you're going to paste in the code. So I shared this one with y'all. So where it says API key here, you're going to paste that big code that OpenAI gives you between these two little quotation marks. So you got to leave the quotation marks or it's going to break, and then you just paste it in. It's because it's a string data type. So if you look up like data types in JavaScript, it might sound like confusing, but there's only a handful of them. Like this is like a Boolean. It's either true or false. This is a string. Yeah. Strings and then variables. So stuff like that might sound confusing, but once you kind of know the different things you're looking at, it makes a bit more sense. Can I type in the places I clicked to get to this spot? I will tell you where I went. So we go to, from the home tab, we're going to go to the view tab in Storyline. We're going to click on slide master. Let me hide this button right here. We'll click on slide master. And then on this last blank layout here, we're going to click on that. And we are going to create and execute JavaScript trigger. So I'll open the trigger I created. So it executes that JavaScript when the timeline starts on this slide. So I think for the basic functionality now, like we don't really need to do anything else. I think this is going to work. Let's see. And I count my iterations. I think in the other window you might have seen it's like test 28 is the version that works fully how I wanted it to. Yeah, so it seems like that functionality already works. So nice and easy when you can paste in the code. Oh, and then it seems, so we have an error here. So let me see here. Something else I do a lot when I'm troubleshooting is I'll just copy all of my code. I'll go over to like Claude, for example, and say I'm developing an AI haunted house in Storyline. I got this error message. And then I'll be like, here is my code. And when I paste my whole code base, it's nice and organized and, you know, it's its own little module there. But then I can like, I just copy in the errors I get in the console. So that's why I always have this console open. And then I'll just paste this here. And then I just press enter, and usually it will figure out what's going on and fix it. And then it rewrites the code for you. And yeah, that's the great part, using the AI to troubleshoot the code. It's like if you don't, because I would feel anxious. I'm like, oh, if I don't understand, I have to understand every line of code that's going to be in my project. But that's not really the case anymore, because if you wanted to understand it, the AI could explain it. And if something's broken, the AI can usually fix it. So it wants us to replace all of this content. I'll just try it. I'll be like, okay, I'll trust you. I'm gonna plug it into Storyline. And it didn't really say that it noticed an error, so I'm wondering why we got that error, but let's see if this new code avoids it. Like, sometimes this is what I was trying, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it kind of broke something. I'm starting to think something else might be wrong here. Oh, maybe it's something to do with the 3D thing. I wonder if we even publish like a blank 3D image, if it would give an error like this, like if it's just a storyline, yeah, just an issue with that doesn't impact functionality, but that might not have nothing to do with our AI haunted house. But okay, so this seems to work now, but we're not gonna have like the thunder sound effects and things like that, right? I could share the finished file with y'all if you want, and you could dive in and see how it works. I'll take out my API key, but I'll show y'all exactly how to update it. That would be great. Okay, let's do that. Yeah. So yeah, you could check this out, and if y'all can like reverse engineer this, maybe there's like a challenge that y'all can have as a way to kind of modify it if you want. Maybe you could like change out this avatar, because yeah, this is how this worked. It was like an angry state and a happy state. I guess they look kind of similar, but then when the current mood variable changes, we're changing the state of the ghost. So for those of y'all who are new, when you click an object, right, you can go over to this states panel, edit the states, and then create new states, and then just kind of position them where you want it. And then with triggers, you can change the states of those objects to whatever you named it, angry, happy, or normal. So I did that when that current mood variable changes. And again, this code that I shared with y'all has the power to change those variables based on the ghost's mood. And I think that piece would be fairly easy for y'all to what y'all should definitely do, actually. Think of a way to modify this. Think maybe you want to add like a fourth mood, or maybe you want to make it so that like lightning strikes. Think of some way y'all want to modify this. Go on over to Claude or ChatGPT and do exactly what I just did here, right? Like, say, hey, I want to do this. I want to change it in this way. Here's the code that I have. Please change it so that I can make lightning strikes happen when the ghost gets upset too. So I think that would be a cool way to kind of test your capabilities with this. And yeah, if we go into Storyline, I'm going to share this file with you. What you do to add in your API key is go to View and then go to Slide Master. It's already going to be here. You just click on where it says JavaScript right here, and then replace the stuff between the quotation marks with your API key. That's all you've got to do. And then you're going to have this going back and forth. If you could do some cool stuff. You could change the code and make this completely different. You could say, hey, here's the code I have. Instead of it being a ghost trapped in a haunted house, make this an upset customer sitting on the other end of like a computer screen, and it's like a corporate chat simulation, right? Instead of saying it's like a 10-year-old upset boy, you could be like it's a 35-year-old upset customer. So you could use AI to kind of change this to your needs. I could also explain how this programming works if anyone cares about that. Like, let me just preview this real quick. So notice how it like kind of comes in afterwards, and then I submit this and it disappears, and then it doesn't come back up until we get the response. That's kind of why I made it like that, because I just didn't want it like sitting there the whole time. So I created a new layer with this new layer button right here. It essentially, it kind of adds a layer on top of the base layer, as you would imagine. So you can kind of like, you can click on this little wheel And, we don't want to hide objects on the base layer, so we can kind of still see through to that background. And we're still going to let the user click on the base layer. We're not going to prevent that or anything. So really basic layers intro. And so then when this timeline starts, notice there's a delay. Okay. So first you might be wondering, like, how do we even show this layer? So I made it so that whenever the timeline starts on the course, we're going to show that user entry layer. So this gets shown immediately, but then it takes 2 seconds for stuff to actually start appearing, right? Because, we want to give it a minute before the user just has to type something. So that's why there's an initial 2-second delay. And then I made it so that, let's see, where else do we show that layer? Why am I not? Oh, here it is. Yeah, show layer user entry when ghost response changes. Okay, so the ghost response will change every time the OpenAI sends something back, right? So we're going to send our request to the server, and then it's going to send back the ghost's response. So that is what... So once that happens, once you get a response, it shows this layer again, it waits 2 seconds, and then it makes this stuff animate in. So if you're wondering about the animations, right? If you're a brand new beginner, you can click on an object and you can go to that animations tab. If you are a beginner, I'd also probably recommend watching like the Getting Started with Storyline workshop. I guess I'll also give a disclaimer, like, you don't have to know how to do this stuff, right? Like, if you're drawn to this kind of stuff and you're interested in the development side and the technical side, I don't think you should let like fear that it'll be too confusing hold you back. Like, you'll learn way faster than you expect, especially with AI now. It's easier than ever. But, it's not like you're going to have to know how to do this to, be a successful, happy instructional designer or e-learning dev. I just like nerding out about this kind of stuff. But I would love for y'all to kind of take this somewhere further and put your own little spin on it and tag me on LinkedIn. That would be really cool to see. To see. Maybe record a video of you doing it if you don't want to share the whole file, or just publish it to review. And set those restrictions for the API key. All right, thank you, everyone. Seems like there was a lot of interest in learning some more of these JavaScript skills, so I will keep that in mind. But if there are any other suggestions or requests or anything, just shoot me an email. And if y'all want to know where I've been and what I've been up to, I'm going to post a kind of behind the scenes video on Tuesday, I believe. So I'm getting back into it. There's going to be content coming. More learning coming. All right. Thank you all for joining me. Keep it up. I like the motivation to learn the advanced stuff. It's a good skill set to have. Not need to have, but very nice to have. Bye, everybody.